Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. I'm your host, Lasheena Williams, and so excited to be back with you all. As you all know, Giving Tuesday is right around the corner, so we've been having a lot of conversations around that and what you can do to prepare for the upcoming campaigns as we close out this year. So I am so excited to have Nicole joining me, and we're going to dive in, and I can't wait for you all to meet her. So let me bring you on up. Hello, hello, Nicole. How are
Hello.
you?
Hi, how are you? I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're here as well. And I'm just glad for us to kind of dive into this conversation. But before we get started, if you don't mind, for those who are just getting to know you, just sharing a little bit about how you entered the nonprofit arena.
Of course. So it was by design, it was destined. So I actually started my career in radio, actually, not in the front of the mic, but
Okay.
on the business side of radio. And so I was in radio for a very, very, very long time. And at the time, I had I had just moved back to Florida, and I wanted to transition. I wanted to kind of step up my game, and an opportunity became available. An opportunity became available at a performing arts center, and it was kind of doing the same thing that I was doing. So I applied, and I got in. And now that I think about that, though, I think it might have started a little bit earlier, because when I was working at the radio station,
Mm-hmm.
I was I was I'm also a dancer, former dancer, once a dancer, always a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was working at the radio station, actually I started my own nonprofit organization. I started a nonprofit dance company, and it started in Florida, and then I ended up moving to Texas, and I expanded it to Texas, grew it in Texas, and then I left. And then so I went to Chicago, and that's how I ended up back in Florida. And it kind of just made its whole circle. So I'm so glad that you asked me that, because I forgot about that. Those
Yeah.
were like some of the best years of my life. So I don't know. But yeah, so my introduction was starting my own nonprofit, and then on a larger scale, working for the marketing department in a performing arts theater.
Oh, that is awesome. And I would love to learn more about even your nonprofit experience as we kind of talking through from a founder perspective, as well as we kind of go through and talk about this month's theme around Giving Tuesday. Um, so we know we're getting ready to kind of, it's quarter four. And depending on where your fiscal year is, we just know it's the end of the year and we're getting ready for wrap up, and it's a huge giving season. With that, we know organizations that's preparing for Giving Tuesday or their final push for the year. What are some tips that you have for these organizations as they get ready to kind of ride the wave for the next couple months?
So I would say get your volunteers involved. I am passionate about volunteer engagement and all things volunteers. That's my background. That's what I do for my day job. That's what my consulting is all about that. Your volunteers can be the greatest marketing that money could never buy. If your volunteers love your organization, help them get involved. Let them be the sound piece for your organization. Give them materials, give them talking points, and then send them off. Let them know if they're going to tell their friends and families or their jobs. Equip them with that information, give them a little bit of guidance, and help send them out. They are going to be your greatest mouthpiece, right? And it's one thing for us as the executive director of organizations, as the engagement manager or donations manager, or whatever development manager. Coming from us, it's going to be one thing. That coming from people who technically have no stake in the game but believe in the mission, so much so that they are volunteering the most important commodity they have, their time that they will never get back. If those are the people now giving that information of, this is how you can also get involved and this is how you can support, I mean, it's like the icing on top.
Love that. And I'm just thinking about what about those organizations that may not have necessarily a strong volunteer base right now? They might have a few, but it's not as strong where they can tap into them.
Mm-hmm.
What can they do now, even if they miss like the being able to engage the volunteers at the level that you mentioned? What
Mm-hmm.
can they start doing now to kind of build that volunteer pool and get volunteers engaged so that by this time next year they're at that point and they can get other volunteers kind of sharing the message.
Well, woo, you girl, I could be here all day because you talking about my jam right there.
Yes.
Um, so I would say, in the short term, right? Because yeah, Giving Tuesday is right around the corner. So if you're a smaller organization, or you don't have that volunteer pool, let's look at what you believe your definition of volunteer is, right? It's anybody that believes in your mission and is willing to spread the word about it. So friends, when I say equip your volunteers, your friends, your family, organizations that you are connected with. If you have people who are already giving you, like if you have funders or supporters or anything like that, give them the information. Maybe they can share it with their employees. There's Start small. Start with the community of people that you have around them and tell them this is what you're trying to do. Here's this information. Will you just at least share it with your network? So that is a small, and so somebody just raising their hand to say, oh sure, I'll like and reshare. And I mean, right there, that's your volunteer. So like, don't let your definition of what a volunteer is prevent you from moving forward. If it might not be this like traditional, oh, I have a volunteer program and we have all these people in place. It's just anybody who is willing to help you spread the word, put that information in their hand and help and give them the guidance on what to do. Now, in terms of building up a volunteer, for the volunteers for the next year, I have all kinds of tips and tricks for that. You know, uh, Putting together a volunteer engagement strategy is probably one of the most important things that an organization can do, and so many people overlook it. It's fascinating. It's a weird flip of the coin because many people believe that volunteers are such a strategic and important part to an organization, but they don't put time and thought and energy into creating a strategic plan
Mhm.
to recruit and engage volunteers. It's just kind of like, oh, it's usually the last thing they think about. And it's like, oh, we'll get some volunteers to do it. Where can we find them? And it's like, volunteers are just hanging out, sitting on the corner, like waiting to get picked up to go do stuff. There's a lot of thought and strategy that has to go into that. So one of the things that people can do, there's several different consultants. If you Google volunteer engagement strategy, there are several consultants that do that type of thing. And also, like, one of the things that I do for my day job, I'm the executive director at the Association of Leaders in Volunteer Engagement, and we literally have all types of resources to help people build volunteer programs from scratch, like just from the thought of a program to how to put it into place for it to really be mission forward, productive, and what's the word I'm looking for? Really, um, really reaching the community in a way that is meaningful and purposeful and not haphazard.
I love that. I love that. And I'm just thinking about my own volunteer journey in itself. And then many of the viewers, you all know that in addition to nonprofit enthusiasts doing consulting, I'm also with Love Our Youth, executive director, the organization that I founded. And I just remember when we got started, everything was just volunteer driven, like everything. And then there became a point where we were able to start hiring staff. And then what I found happened was we went more focused on staff, that then we started losing the engagement at to the level that we had it of volunteers. And then there became a little period where we're like, okay, we need to start bringing volunteers back into the fold, letting staff see the value behind having volunteers, into the fold, and making it a seamless process. And then something that happened when we were kind of like looking at it, looking at our strategy, kind of we realized what worked then doesn't work now. So even with that strategy that you talked about, you may have one in place. You got to, you sometimes your organization grows and you have to revamp that process. Like what worked then doesn't work now. And then something that happened in the midst of that, we realized like, okay, it went down to our software. And I'm not gonna talk about softwares because I could get into a whole nother discussion. But someone brought up like the software is a little too clunky on the
Mm,
user side, and then for our staff, who typically a lot of times in organizations, as you're growing, you might not be as lucky to have someone that's a certified volunteer administrator on your team. So it's someone within the team. So it's too clunky for that person on the other side. So it just became a thing where everyone just wants to avoid it. The volunteer end want to avoid it, and then the staff want to avoid it. So we had to do a switch in softwares where, as a result of that, even though I've realized that we haven't found the perfect software. It still has kind of areas to work with, but user friendliness on both
mhm.
sides has been a lot easier. And we've seen an increase in our volunteers as a result, and being able to maintain the relationships with them as a result of that. So it's almost like that became at some point our because back in the day it used to be just an Excel spreadsheet or form. It was like real simple. Then you get into the system starts scaring away people, and
Yes.
then now we have to make a tweak, and that's what allowed us to start growing our volunteer program again. So
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
I just wanted to share that because that was something that was just, I didn't think of something. It was one of the team members that brought it up, and I didn't think of something so simple being the reason why our program started um um becoming more staff heavy versus volunteer heavy. So
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out there for someone who's at the point looking for Giving Tuesday, like, hey, I don't have a volunteer team, using some of the tips that you have to just get started now, but then also starting to look at how do I build a sustainable volunteer program, to continuously keep volunteers at the forefront of the work that we do.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And on top of it, volunteers are our superpower as nonprofits. Like, not many fields you can just get volunteers willingly like you can in the nonprofit arena. That is our like area.
Just saying. So, um, like I said, I am passionate about volunteer engagement. I've been in this field since 2014, and have had the opportunity to lead not only volunteers, but also lead those who lead volunteers in several different capacities, from the arts, from sports, um, human services, and now at an association level. And it just, there's such power. There's such power in volunteering and giving back, and understanding that our communities are only as strong as the people in it. And if we are contributing and pouring into our community, that is what builds
Mhm.
strong communities. And, with the event of social media and the selfie, like, there's so much attention has been, people have turned it back on, like, me, like, this is what I need to do. And what can everybody do for me? And how am I? But it's like, when people realize that if we kind of turn the camera back around, and if everybody is still, instead of saying, what do I get out of it? What can I give?
Mm.
That is what builds strong communities. And not only that, communities are built, get stronger, but it's great for your own health. I literally have a book. Oh, look, it's sitting right here. It's called Wonder Drug.
Ooh.
I didn't write it. It's not my book, but it's called Wonder Drug, and it's 7 scientifically proven ways that serving others is the best medicine for yourself.
Mm.
So and it just talks about the studies with when people were feeling down or feeling disconnected, and when they went and gave, or when they went to help somebody else, or they helped to contribute to a mission, literally not just like feel good, but the stats in there literally show like changes in blood makeup and changes in
Mm,
brain function. And like, it is a scientific thing that when we are giving back, that it really improves our health. And so um I fell into volunteer engagement, like I said, because I was in the marketing department and the volunteer opportunity opened, the volunteer manager opportunity opened within the organization, and I applied for it and I got it. But I had no idea how much this would become my calling until that happened. And ever since then, like I haven't looked back. I'm passionate about speaking on volunteerism. So just doing like speaking engagements, and not only how you can be a better volunteer, but how volunteer managers can create experiences for those who they are leading, so that people want to come back, so that they will be your greatest mouthpiece and your greatest advocate, not only for Giving Tuesday, but for everything, anything else. And so I started, and I learned so much. I learned so much. And so for me, my part of giving back is writing blogs and doing speaking engagements and just getting that out there, because I was banging my head so much on the wall from all of this stuff that I'm like, nobody should have to go through all of this from scratch. If I want you to learn from experience, not have to learn from start, but here, take what I have and build upon it so that you don't have to bang your head against
mhm.
the wall. But yeah, that's been my journey, and I am passionate. I am so passionate about it. I could talk about it for hours, so I'm going to pause just in case there's some things you're trying to talk about right
No,
now.
that's it right there. No, I love that because I mean, that's what I hear from a lot of volunteer professionals. Like many of them are like, I got in a role and I had to figure it out. I mean, now there's, more formalized programs and things like that that you can go through to help you with doing that. But, like I'm glad that you kind of shared your journey and how you were able to find that volunteer, the world of volunteer is your area. So what about, we do have some like different interns
Mhm.
and students in the group. So what would you say for those that might be, they're watching the nonprofit arena, they're trying to determine which area they want to go within, and volunteer was one that piqued their interest? What would you tell them to do to help equip them for entering into that world?
Well, number one, the fact that the volunteer aspect even stood out to them, that's already a win, because that's what I'm trying to do, is get people to know that this is even a profession, because so many people don't even know that this profession exists. So if that already peeked out to them, we're already like giving them a high five for that.
Yes.
But there's several different things that people can do. I definitely say, if you have the opportunity, I know like in if higher learning is the way that you want to go, there's nonprofit administration, and sometimes occasionally they will have a course, maybe like a class on 2 on volunteer engagement. There are several volunteer leader certificates out there that people can take and learn. And then like I said, I'm gonna plug my day job right here. Again, for the Association of Leaders in Volunteer Engagement, we have actually a pilot program, and it's basically kind of like an internship program, and you learn every aspect about what it takes to lead and manage volunteers, from recruitment to engagement to what the metrics look like, all of these different things. And because what we're trying to do is raise up the next generation of volunteer engagement leaders. And so I would say look out for different organizations, even look for, if you can look for internships specifically related to volunteer engagement, you will not be remiss to do that, because it's different. People are they think like, oh, if I take a leadership course, I can do this. And if I, go into HR, I can do this. But volunteer engagement has so many different aspects to it. So much so that I wrote like 2 different blogs on it in terms
Mm,
of 25 roles that you didn't realize were a part of volunteer engagement.
mm.
And what you think you're, just I could share those links out.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to know how to lead people. It's one thing to know how to manage people. It's a whole nother thing to manage those same people who are giving of their time for free, because they vote with their feet and they walk away. If they leave or just stop showing up, they're well within their right to do so because they're volunteering their time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's things that might work for a staff member that just won't work for a volunteer. Volunteers often are motivated a little bit differently. And so if you are trying to work with a volunteer the same way you would with a staff person based upon their, a staff person, 9 times out of 10, their motivation is getting that check. The volunteer isn't relying on a check.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I'm here voluntarily taking time out of my schedule to be here. What is compelling me to be here? What is, at the end of the day, everybody wants to know that they make a difference in this world. And if that isn't being shown, not only through the tasks that they're doing, the recognition that they're receiving, and there's like 5 different types of recognition. So you can't recognize people all the same way because people recognize, or people like recognition in several different ways. So you can't like send an e-blast with some like a volunteer's picture and a name and say, congratulations to Shelly. And Shelly's like, I am mortified. If you'd have just called me and said thanks, I would have been okay. I didn't want everybody to know. So there's all these nuances that people
Yeah.
don't think about, that play such a huge part in volunteer engagement, that it just, if you can find an internship that is specific to volunteer engagement, it is going to benefit you. Or like I said, a certification that is specifically towards volunteer engagement, because it takes all the aspects of leadership, of having difficult conversations, of understanding a little bit about marketing, a little bit about development, like, and fundraising. All of these aspects go into it, like budgeting. It's read the blog. It's a lot. Um, so it is a rich, complex, yet so unbelievably fulfilling profession. And that is why and that's what we call it, is Alive, at the Association of Leaders of Volunteer Engagement. At Alive, we are like just dedicated to shouting it from the rooftops and letting people know that not only is this a profession, but there's all types of support for you, from soup to nuts. I heard somebody say that, like from beginning to all the way through every step of the way. You are not alone, because a lot of people feel like as a volunteer engagement professional, they're the only ones at their organization. Nobody knows what they're, what they're going through or what they're talking. Like, no, there is a whole, just a club of volunteer engagement managers that are out there that are willing to support and help you through all the different aspects and all the different phases of leading volunteers. It just, again, like I said, I could talk about it for days, because it just has become my passion and every aspect that I do. And it was when I started my nonprofit organization, my first volunteer was my mom. She was like, I will do the books for you. Right. So
Yeah.
it was like, she was right there with me alongside and helping out and doing things. And until we were able to get a couple of staff people, and even still, as we gained staff people, then her volunteer role would shift. Okay, well, we have these people, then can we shift to do this? So, but I wish I would have known now what I knew then, because I definitely would have had a much more robust volunteer program, and we would have been able to get a lot more done. But I didn't know. I was just doing what I needed to do and trying to figure things out.
Wow. Love it, love it, love it. I'm just like so much different. Like thoughts are kind of running through my head, especially when it comes to volunteerism. One of them is, I feel like I need to say this for the executive director that's tuning in, that kind of just selected someone and say, hey, you're managing volunteers, invest in their growth and professional development. Nicole just shared some resources on how you can do that. But if you want them to do better at, especially because many people enter that arena without the formal education behind it. But if you could do a certificate program or get involved with like a live or something like that, if that individual can do that to help them do their job better, it'll ultimately benefit the organization. So I definitely want to say that.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you said that, because the success of any volunteer engagement program starts at the top. If the executive director is supportive of it and is a champion of it, it will work. But if you, as the executive director, are like, it's volunteers, it's whatever, it doesn't matter what your whoever is leading your volunteers does. If they don't have that support from the top, it is a roadblock to any type of real impact that you want to have. Because volunteer managers will work day in and day out. They will recruit volunteers. They will get them trained up. They will do all of these things and then send them out to a post. And a staff person, either just doesn't say good morning or just looks at them like, oh, you're just a volunteer. And all of that work that volunteer manager did is gone out the door because that volunteer didn't feel appreciated or felt like, they were, that their time wasn't appreciated. So they're like, why am I going to come back? It is so painful.
Yep.
But if everybody from the top down, from the very, from executive director on down, knows and understands, and it is infiltrated throughout and threaded throughout the organization, and everybody's on the same page, it's going to make a world of difference, not only for your organization, but for whoever is leading your volunteers. Because one of the biggest things is, yes, I know all of this, but it's the staff that is blocking. The staff isn't interested. The staff treated them, or not even treated them in such a way, but just didn't think to acknowledge them or think to show up. If a volunteer was scheduled to be there at 12 and the staff person is, well, I'll get there whenever I get there. Well, yeah, but you're getting paid. They're not. And we just wasted 30 minutes of their time. And they're not, most of the time, volunteers are not going to say anything. They're just going to stop signing up. They're going to stop coming back because they don't owe us anything. So it's a whole thing. So yes, executive director, if you can, instill that from the top, from the beginning, from day one, make it a part of onboarding. Like if you have a new staff person, they're going through HR, 30 minutes dedicated to volunteer engagement, the impact that they're making within the organization and their role, because volunteer engagement is everybody in the organization's job, not just the volunteer manager.
Ooh. Well said. Love it. I love it. I love it. And I love that suggestion about including it in the HR process so that from the second someone steps in the door, they understand the value behind volunteers in the organization. And while you were talking about some of those, like, don't do this, or a volunteer will not come back, they vote with their feet. Literally situations where that happened and I was volunteering was playing through my head. Situations where I went in to volunteer and, not like I couldn't have been doing something else, but it's like, no, I wanted to be here and show up, and I'm there, and like not even a greeting, or kind of like I'm with the other volunteers and we're all trying to figure this out together. Like all of that happened. And you're right. Did I go back? No, I didn't.
Just saying.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. So let our viewers know how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. You can follow me across Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. It's at Nicole R. Smith Net. And you can reach out to me. My website is NicoleRSmith.net. I am most active on LinkedIn. That's where you will get a lot of like instant ish responses back and forth. But I also encourage people to check out the Association of Leaders in Volunteer Engagement, and that is at volunteeralive.org. And like, again, there's a lot of resources, there's ways to connect. You can find out about all those different certificate programs that I was talking about. And in terms of like things for me, one of the things that I'm passionate about is helping people to develop their volunteer advisory teams. Like, that is my passion. Showing people how to delegate. That's another thing, like, because that's another thing, right? People are like, okay, I want to use volunteers, but if I give it to a volunteer, they're so unreliable. But are there things that we are doing that is causing them to be unreliable? Are we giving them the stuff that nobody wants to do anyway? And even if we are giving them stuff that nobody wants to do, are you attaching it to the purpose of the organization so they understand why it's important? Did we give them a deadline, or did we just say, whenever you get around to it, and then you really needed it yesterday, but you never? So like, that's one of the things I talk to people about. So with delegation, creating like how to create advisory boards to help doing that, and accountability, and what accountability looks like, not only on the volunteers side, but on our side as the person who's leading as well.
Love it. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Hopefully you'll come back at some point throughout the year so we can continue this conversation, because there's so much around volunteers that we can talk about. So I definitely appreciate you coming on, and to our viewers, I will see you all next week for our next Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. Thank you for tuning in. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.